This new episode of 86 may just be the most violent episode of anime I've seen in a while. Why? Well, I mean, it involved Eugene getting ripped in half and then getting a bullet put through his brain. Needless to say, emotions ran high in this episode, but even still, it was an amazing episode with good pacing and an even stronger focus on the 86, particularly with Shin. Though, I've got to say, I miss seeing what's going on with Vladilena. Hope we get some more of her in the next episode. Also, if you're wondering I sound like I'm out of breath or something like that, that's because I'm sick. So, yeah. It happens. So this episode starts with Shin and Eugene, and the rest are basically training with them. This whole segment is really here to show what the rest of the episode story tells, which is Shin and the rest of the 86 are way more experienced than even the officials of Giad. Shin actually brings up a good point that it's better to pick the option that puts more people in less harm than not doing the dangerous maneuver that he did. And this shows that the drill sergeant doesn't know much about what the real war is like and how the Legion really work. And as well, the scene was one potato girl away from being legendary. Speaking of, actually, boop that subscribe button if you are interested in weekly Attack on Titan videos in the lead into the final season. We're starting next Wednesday, so get excited if you're excited, I suppose. Moving on. What I found really interesting is that in this episode, Yuji's friends want him to distance himself from Shin because they believe he's dangerous and too mysterious. Though I think that the irony of that is that he's their best bet and Eugene was probably doing a good here. But we also learn in subtle context clues that the new mechs aren't designed to protect the pilots as they're based on the Republic design. And this is important as this likely contributed to Eugene's death later in this episode. Ah, God, my sinuses. I can't talk. So while taking back some land, they found these Republic mechs and recorded the people that were lost there and what went on there out of respect. And this is really interesting because it seems that Giad is hell-bent on treating the 86 with the utmost respect and recording history in the right way. And it's revealed that actually they're going to be working with Greth Wenzel, who I believe is the voice of Ren Tosaka from Fate, if you're a fan of the Fate series. And it's also revealed that Fido is back, which actually makes Shin smile in this episode, and is actually a pretty big moment, in my opinion. And we'll get into why that is later in the video. But it is revealed that Frederica is their new goddess of victory. And it's this old custom of Giad that nobody really does anymore, but Frederica chose to do that herself, and it's designed really to give the soldiers themselves something to fight harder for, and she also gives Shin back his gun. This whole scene here was just really good all around, and we're gonna get more into why that is later in the video once again. So now on the Giad Federacy Western front lines, that is a big string of words there. We see firsthand why Shin is above everybody else in terms of experience, and he does he just obliterates everybody. And even after the battle, when he's scolded for using the mech's blade, that he knew that it didn't matter because the Legion would withdraw, which surprised the person that was getting on to him about that. And as well, I think this scene is very important because it's just one of the pieces in this episode that tell the story of Shin being just so experienced. But as well, we cannot forget this cute scene with Frederica scolding Shin. I mean, she snuck out just to tell him that he should take care of himself better. And that to me shows that Frederica is growing really attached to Shin. Later on, we learned that all of Shin's commanding officers have died in battle, which leads into this really interesting scene where Eugene's friends keep scolding him about hanging out with Shin, even though Eugene seemingly will not give up on Shin, and I thought that was a really nice thing. But I think this scene really shows the familial bond between Shin and Frederica by comparing these two to Eugene and Nina. It was really brilliant in that sense because Shin, even in this scene, says that he has somebody like a sister to look after when Eugene suggests that if something happens to him, he should take care of Nina. So it's a really dark scene. It really shows to me that Eugene knows his days are numbered, but as well, it shows that Frederica and Shin are growing much closer. And speaking of Frederica, there's a lot of character traits of Frederica that are just so wholesome. I love that she hates mushrooms, but doesn't want to be rude to not finish them, so Shin eats them, takes them off her plate. Also, she says umu a lot, which is, it's umu. Who doesn't like that phrase? Also, Frederica and Eugene become friends, which I thought was so cute as she takes the photo of the two, which ironically is the moment I knew that Eugene would die. But their lunch is sadly cut short by an ensuing battle, and it cuts to actually after the battle ends, in which immediately we see that Eugene dies by getting ripped in half and left in a pool of his own blood. And this imagery was absolutely brutal. Not just because he was covered in blood, but you even see when Shin shoots him in the head, you see the bullet wound and his brains. And I cannot believe that they got away with that, showing that on TV. It was such a brutal scene, and it's really sad to see Eugene die, but at the same time, I'm surprised they actually did it this early. I thought they would do it later in the season. But I guess as well, it kind of makes sense because he's not some important character, but I do worry about what is going to happen to Nina after this, who's going to break the news to her, and since she's now living with Eugene's aunt, how all of that is going to work out. Is Shin gonna support Nina? And, that is something we'll just have to see, I guess, for the future. But the battle isn't over yet. They're to converge on a new point, and the battle is not looking good whatsoever. So it's going to be really interesting to see what's going to happen in the next episode, knowing that things are just not going well. And really, now that I think about it, that, this episode was frankly incredible for the story it told. This episode was about two things: developing through the subtle context, the relationship between Frederica and Shin, and as well establishing that Shin and the rest of the 86 have the most experience, while everyone else doesn't really know the true horrors that the Legion can bring. Though, the story with Shin and Frederica, I think, my opinion, shined the most in this episode. Frederica obviously cares a lot about Shin, and we've seen it multiple times in this episode with her eating lunch with him and presenting the newly fixed up Fido to him as a present, and as well sneaking out to tell Shin that he should be more careful. Frederica even decides to revisit an old custom of Giad so that she could be with Shin on the battlefield. Granted, that in of itself presents more questions as to why Frederica, being so young, knows about stuff like these old customs. Shin himself, on the other hand, already considers Frederica to be somewhat of a little sister type figure in his life. Now, this could be because Shin was basically told by Frederica that she's in the role of a little sister or daughter, but the way he replied to Eugene, to me, suggests that Shin is already starting to get attached to Frederica and vice versa, as something more of a sister-brother role. I mean, honestly, fantastic stuff, really. And while we wait for next week's episode, check out my video on last week's bombshell 86 twist regarding Frederica and the 86. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.